Hello, lovely Pushback Talks listeners. You're probably wondering, who is this? It's not Leilani, and it's definitely not Frederick. So let me start by introducing myself. My name is Kirsten. I'm on Leilani's team at The Shift, where I work as her communications and marketing manager, and I moonlight as one of the producers here on Pushback Talks. If you've been listening for a while, you know that each year we like to use the summers as an opportunity to revisit our favorite episodes from the season and focus in on our favorite parts of each interview. But this year, we're doing things a little differently. Every week, we'll take a look back at one of our favorite episodes from across all 6 seasons of Pushback Talks and give you an update on how things have progressed and changed since the episode was first released. In our first season, we were lucky enough to get some time with Chicoco Radio out of Port Harcourt, Nigeria, the unique collective of creatives fighting inequality in the waterfront settlements of the oil-rich Delta Coast. Since we first got to know Chicoco Radio at the end of 2020, the collective has continued to grow tremendously and produce amazing work that envisions a better future for those living in Nigeria's cities. Be sure to check out their presentation from this year's African Infrastructure Futures Conference, a bold reimagining of sustainable, equitable future African societies rooted in existing urban fabric. Chicoco Radio remains an amazing example of the power of community. Let's take a look back at what they were up to in 2020.
I'm Frederick Gerten, and I'm the filmmaker.
And I'm Leilani Farha, and I'm the advocate.
So we are back, Leilani, and I don't know, we've been doing this for a long time now. It's like 21st episode, or is it something like that?
I think it's maybe the 22nd episode.
Is it? Okay, yeah. So it's, this is what we do these days, and then we zoom around the world. I'm going to talk to audience in Wales tonight who are been watching Push, and this happens almost every week. We have something upcoming in Antwerp, and we're going to talk to people who discuss these issues, and I guess you zoom around a lot also, talking to audiences after the film and so on.
I have been zooming around, in particular in the United States, because we've had the release of Push throughout the U.S. So I was in Miami, I've been in Pittsburgh, and very recently I was in, of all places, College Park, Maryland.
Wow.
At the University of Maryland, yeah, with a group of amazing students, really suffering, some of them, some, student housing problems. But there was a surprise when I was at the University of Maryland. The host, Michael Bodekin, it turns out, is our first Patreon.
Wow, Michael.
I couldn't believe it.
Thank you. And I actually saw that he was raising his pledge to like $50 a month. That's like amazing. So
amazing.
I think
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. And we have 19 Patreons in it, and that it's a total of $128 a month. It's more than a cup of coffee, so it's good.
Sure.
It's good.
But you know what? Maybe we could increase to 22, like one new Patreon per episode.
But we also got a donation from Bill Barberg, which is kind of cool. Thank you very much, Bill. We should talk soon.
Yes.
Anyway, Leilani, you recently in May, just before, in the early days of the pandemic, you stepped out, you left your UN hat behind, and you moved on to being the global director of The Shift. Mm-hmm. We traveled a lot shooting Push, and also afterwards we've been talking a lot, and you always talked about your strong experience from your official mission to Nigeria. What was that struck you so deeply with Nigeria?
It was my second last mission, I think, and it was amazing. First of all, every rapporteur wants to go to Nigeria. Why? It is the largest Black nation in the world with 200 million people. I mean, it's huge, but it's also such a complex place full of gross inequality, like really horrible inequality. I think and my statistics may be a little wrong because it's been some while, but like 70% of the population lives below the poverty line. Like 60 million people don't have access to safe water. A huge percentage, I think 50% of the population is living in what people call slums or informal settlements. So that's really bad. But
then we're talking about Africa's or the world's 29th economy. So it's a rich country. A
rich country. And I remember reading that the number of millionaires between 2004 and 2010, something like this, had increased by 44%. Oh. So you have half the population living in squalor, and then this huge increase in wealth for some.
Mm. It looks like the pattern of the world, basically, but in Nigeria in a very extremely graphic way.
Yeah,
sad.
An oil-producing country, 29th largest GDP in the world, and beside Austria, so.
But I remember you talked about one of your strongest impressions from Nigeria when you went down to the oil delta, down to Port Harcourt. And then this radio station was something that you really loved. So I can actually hear some music now. Can't you hear some music coming out?
I hear something.
So, we are the Chicoco Collective. We're a bunch of rappers, mappers, musicians,
journalists,
filmmakers, and photographers. Auntie Grace is lost. I see you. So, here in Chicoco, we've all experienced forced eviction, either firsthand or through someone we know and love. We're singing for change. We sing this song to push back the fear of demolition, of bulldozers, of bullets, and of wounds. Here we go. Because I come from the ghetto, government them come for ghetto. Say me I be human being, I be human being. Because I say I come from the ghetto, see this government them come for ghetto. Say me I be human being, I be human being. 6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer. I wake up, bulldozer. 6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer for my door. 6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer. Hey.
Situation for this country now by force, they evict people, no negotiation and by law, man, it's not legal. Small demonstration, they won't start to kill people. So make it check out if it's not evil. Hold on, wait before I proceed. They said the best things in life are free, but it takes me and you for us to succeed and to make environment the best place to live.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer. Yeah, yo.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer for my door. 6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
I wake up, bulldozer.
So, how do we make it to the day when graduates working crappy job just for little pay? No one really understand what we going through. Tribulations like hard times, but what we gonna do? Nah, I feel the pain of our mothers. Leaders don't know how life is in the slums. Mama hustle hard just to fend for the children, and that is where rags rack of food for the children, clothes for the children. We hustle hard just for 2 square meals, and some days we don't even get 1 square meal. Now you're telling us to evict like we don't mean, tossing us on the streets like we some feel. Oh Lord, things was bad, now it's getting worse. So Moku, and there I can hear Barry Brown Mo. Through all the system, boost education, the damn crime. Give job with devil scribbles and I do mine.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer for my door.
Before I did try make a note. Now I realize say you go bad if I note. I did stay for the ghetto, you know me say I be go to. So make the government stop to treat me like slave. Cause early in the morning, 6 o'clock. Now the bulldozer wait, they wait for a ghetto. They wanna take a home, them they bought their house. They don't even care if we're happy or sad.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer. Yeah.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer for my door. 6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
Yo, hey, we dey beg them, they no hear. See the government don't care. They even come with troops just to make the people live in fear. People live here, but still they don't send us. The militia houses, I say them go arrest us. As when they try to move over. Guess what we see in a bulldozer. 6 a.m. in the morning, bulldozer. 6 a.m. in the morning, bulldozer. Yeah.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer. Yeah.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer for my door. 6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer. Tell me something relevant. Housing is a human right. The message to the government, don't take me for a militant. Sleeping in a thatch house, my people then they suffer. Next time you tell us to vote, we go tell you to fiakwa. Adequate housing, all we need. Sleeping in a room with 10 people next to me. Health-wise, it dey cause communicable disease. Hey, it dey cause communicable disease. 6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer. Hey.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer. Hey.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer for my door. 6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer. 6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
I wake up, bulldozer.
6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer for my door. 6 a.m. as I wake up, bulldozer.
Wow. Thank you. This is actually recorded live for us here at Pushback Talks, straight from Port Harcourt, Nigeria.
Amazing.
Sometimes zooming out is not that bad. It's actually quite cool to zoom around the world.
That's right.
And you know, and they're singing about, you know, being woken up in 6 a.m. in the morning, and then the bulldozers are outside. And this is the story you've heard, we've heard from all over the world, from Latin America, from Southeast Asia, from, you know, around Africa, but also now from parts around Europe and North America. I mean, the violence and the brutalization of our society is like it's getting really close.
Yeah.
So it's an important song coming to us here. But I'm so happy for the energy that comes
amazing.
out.
It's amazing, and it's such a. I mean, I'm singing along and dancing along, and then I'm realizing we're talking about one of the worst violations of human rights. You know, we're singing about one of the worst violations of human rights that is so. I mean, I've met so many families who've been and households who've been evicted, and it's absolutely devastating. I mean, it destroys life and community and spirit, you know, and that's probably the intention.
But I also see that this energy coming out and the lightness of the music is also really important for us to be able to survive and to be able to push back. Thanks for including pushback in your song. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Because we need to push back. So we are now with Radio Chicoco in Port Harcourt, Nigeria, and you should check out the chicoco.fm website. It's extremely cool. There's a lot of stories out there, filmed and music and stuff. So you really dive straight into the city of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Michael Uwemedimo, you're the guy we've been talking to from afar. So can you just set us, where are we now? You know.
So we are in a city in the creeks, the oil capital of Nigeria, a city that was founded for the sole purpose of the extraction of resources. It was the railway terminus for coal coming inland from Enugu and the deep water port to take that coal around the then colonial coast. And then some years later, 3 years before independence, commercial quantities of oil were struck in 1956. So we're here in the heart of dark cargo.
I've been trying to read up a little bit. I saw that Port Harcourt is 1 million inhabitants, or at least officially, and then you have it's 50K up from the coast, but by the river, and your radio station is situated by the river in the harbor slum. What I understand. Can you describe the streets where you are?
So, Port Harcourt, the old city, was built on a plateau. And all around the old city is a tangle of creeks, very dense tangle of creeks. And along the water's edge, people have taken mud called Chicoco mud, black mud from the mangroves, and thrown it down to reclaim land from the water. And up to 500,000 people live in these dense waterfront settlements all around the city. They're overlooked, unheard, literally overlooked, because from many parts of the city you can't even see them. And for the most part, they're ignored by the government. And then when they become of interest, usually because of private-public partnerships, we launch into some very intense demolition campaigns. So we're here in the heart of the waterfronts, live and direct.
Okay. And Michael, just to make this short, your Nigerian accent is like very special. Can you give us a short update about your...
Yeah, my Nigerian accent came from my mum, who's British. Okay. My non-Nigerian accent came from my dad, who's Nigerian.
Okay, so nice to be with you. And you have also brought some other friends to the mics. I can see 3, and I only know that we have IB and Tammy, but there is like a third person too. Grace also, yes. And Grace. So nice to have you on our talk. So Leilani, what is you've been there.
I've been there, and the greeting I received in Chicoco was unbelievable. It was a complete highlight of my trip to Nigeria. So I forget where I'd been before, but it was like hot and a big community meeting, and I was running like super late, and I arrived in Chicoco to music and dance, just like we've had this morning, Frederick, or on the podcast today. It was incredible. And then I heard about this radio station, and I said, hey, we should do like a radio show together. And so Grace, I don't know, but Grace took me to the radio station, and she did this phenomenal interview. We had such fun, even though I was running super late, but we just did it anyway. And it was amazing. And then I got to see Chicoco and the vibrant informal settlement. You know, our listeners may not know what informal settlements are like, but they can be the height of energy and passion and orderliness. They're like little cities themselves.
Grace, so you had a UN special rapporteur coming to you.
Yes.
You interviewed her.
Yes.
How have you been able to use the language of Leilani in your city? Because her message is quite clear. Mm-hmm. Housing is a human right.
Yes, locally, yes. We've done something with her work, and we're also working towards something we'll put up on our platform on the Chicoco website using her work, and then do a follow-up as well. So,
and you were singing in the song here about the forced eviction. Is this something that you've experienced yourself, you friends, Tammy, IB?
Yes. Growing up as a young child, I grew up, I was given birth to in the railway quarters. So it's uptown, and we were living happily until they came to forcefully evict us. I remember dressed for school, and then before us were 3 young men who came in and were asking us to leave. And we were hopeless at that point, but my mom fought hard to ensure that we were not evicted as at that day. But then we had to hurriedly look for somewhere. And where else can we go to except for the slum? And so we had to move to the slum. The slum accommodated us. And we became comfortable, so to say, in the slum. And we decided now, that's why for someone like me, I've decided that being part of the slum will make our voice heard. It's not different from what happens up there. The only different thing here is that we make life ourselves because we hardly see government presence.
I remember I was small. My dad was a lecturer, so we stayed in a government building. So after he taught for years, and when he died, few months later they came and told us, they said you have to leave because the person who works with us as a government officer is no longer alive and you're not our staff. So you have to pack out of the house. That happened, and my mom she said she had small savings in her account. So she was looking for a place to pay for her children to enter at least. When her younger sister, immediate younger sister, came to her and told her there's a place at Waterside, whether you like to buy, at least that money you used to pay for house rent uptown, you used to buy a land and also build. So she came, it was waterlogged, but she had to use the Chicoco black mold to fill and reclaim her space, and she built a house. That was how we started living there. We've been there for now 29 years. Then some years back, we were in the house when they told us government officials are coming with bulldozers, they want to come and demolish. My mom shouted, again, where am I going to go? So she followed the women and the boys to test at Bundu for them not to come close to our waterfront, and that was how we later found Michael and came up with Chicoco.
The Bundu she's talking about is another waterfront.
Right.
And people were protesting the planned demolition of their community. And a week earlier, some enumerators had come into the community to mark the houses with red paint, big cross, the opposite of the Passover rite. And they had driven the enumerators out. And so they came back in a show of force, the JTF, the Joint Task Force, the mobile police, and they opened fire on the protesters. At least one person was killed. We think more, but we only use the numbers that we have confirmation of. At least one person was killed and 11 seriously injured.
When was this?
This was 12th of October 2009. And that was the beginning of this project in many ways, because it was just naked. It was stark that people could have their homes bulldozed and be shot for protesting it. So we decided to take the government to court to allow people to represent themselves legally, and then started exploring different forms of representation. And that led to the radio, to the cinema, to music.
Okay, my name is Ivy Johnson. For my case, it was a threat of demolition, not an actual demolition or eviction. I was born in a waterfront known as a NEPA waterfront. We later moved to another waterfront because that was what my parents could afford at the time. Fast forward to 2009, I was an undergraduate student at the University of Port Harcourt when we got a rumor of demolition of all the waterfronts in Rivers State by the then governor of the state, Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi Chibike. So the fear was there. My dad was not in town. We were all alone, and our house was about to be demolished and all that. So there was this protest. We came down from school, my friends and I. But it was unfortunate because I can't forget that day. My colleague, my friend was arrested that day. An undergraduate student of computer science of University of Port Harcourt was arrested that day without being tried. He was sent straight to the prison, just like that. No trial, nothing. Though he was able to get out, but the memory still sticks to my head that we have little or nothing to fight this government when it comes to that. So that built up something in me that I want to have a tool, something that I can fight, but I can push back when the time comes for these things.
I think maybe it's just worth clarifying, for people who might be listening in London or Montreal or New York. When we talk about forced evictions here, demolitions, we're talking about soldiers, bulldozers, turning up unannounced, early in the morning, late at night, in the pouring torrential rain, and bulldozing houses as people are running to leave them, with total impunity. The intensity of the violence is overwhelming. It's perhaps difficult for people who haven't witnessed it to imagine. People often think about forced evictions and housing rights as some technical issue to do with urban planning. The house is the first shelter of the imagination. It's where you live and where you dream. And to have the homes of 17,000 people destroyed in a single weekend with no recourse, no alternative provision made, and for that to be unremarkable is the situation that we're in here. And our plan was just to make that remarkable, to mark it, to speak it, to show it.
It's so brutal, and we also know that sometimes the developers use a natural disaster like a storm, like what happened in Puerto Rico, for example. They use that as a way to kick people out. It's cynical and brutal. I mean, normally we don't get any news out of Nigeria, but suddenly there is a lot of news coming out of Nigeria because the police, and a special unit of the police also is really criticized, and the people are standing up in a way that we haven't seen from afar in Nigeria right now. So it seems like the situation is quite politicized. Can you give us an update on End the SARS, the campaign you have ongoing in Nigeria right now?
The SARS issue, or the police issue, has been with us. And like Leilani said when she started, she said that she imagined that we turned what should have turned out to be sorrowful into something meaningful. We had to make ourselves happy. Sometimes, even when we just sit to discuss these issues, we just sit and laugh. But then it has been something with us. Like daily, you go out on the road and a police officer stops you and he says, "Hey, turn back." And when you refuse to go back, you're manhandled with so much impunity. And you're told, "I'll deal with you and nothing will happen." And that's how they get away with every single act of impunity that has been meted out on ordinary citizens like us. And this NSAS protest is just to show how much, I would say, citizens are not able to continue to endure this level of impunity and brutality against us, and that which is obviously an abuse of our rights. And so the coming out of people in this number is to show that in one voice we can end this. And we saw the end result from the first few days where the government announced an outright banning of the police tactical unit, the SARS. And since then, very little change. But then we're gradually going back to what we have always had with them, because they are back on the road with their guns. Here in Nigeria, you don't see the ordinary policeman with a baton like we usually see over there when we watch movies or when we see the news. It's not the case here. Here we'll say over-policed and with so much impunity.
First of all, I just want to say to IB, Tammy, and Grace, thank you for telling us your stories, because that's so important for people to hear the actual stories. And I'm always moved. I've heard many, many stories, and each one moves me each time. So just a huge thanks for sharing. I have been incredibly moved and struck by the young people taking to the streets, and not just with this SARS situation, but even the work that you're doing to claim space, to claim human rights, to claim your life, to say, we are alive, we are making music and art and claiming our rights in every way is so inspiring. It's completely amazing. And I think you should know that you're off there in Nigeria, but there are those of us out here listening and supporting you and just, wanting you to keep go, because it's so important.
For me, I can see a parallel on what's happening in Chile or in Hong Kong or in Beirut, because a lot of people around the world are standing up against corruption and against the the brutality and so that it seems like you are a part of a global movement. And don't forget about Black Lives Matter, because there's a very obvious relation to Black Lives Matter. How do you see this, Leilani?
I really was thinking about those parallels with Black Lives Matter, and the relationship between individuals and the state, and this brutal violence. And as Michael had said, it's amazing, the impunity, actually. I mean, these are not just like small little violations. These are the most egregious violations of human rights. People are losing their lives, their livelihoods, their communities, and their homes, and breaking up families and causing incredible emotional trauma. These are egregious violations. And the impunity is so terrible because we have a system set up, an international human rights system that is supposed to help protect.
I mean, we say here, why don't Black Lives Matter in Black Africa?
Exactly.
Good question.
Can I even say, we were having an editorial meeting one of the days, and then Michael asked, I hope you're following the Black Lives Matter, the story in the US. And my response was, I don't see why I should be protesting for an act that took place in the US, whereas what situation is happening here and we're not protesting. That was even before the NSAS thing happened.
Exactly.
So it's not like we're not supporting the Black Lives Matter movement up there, but then for us here, we're very dormant in trying to speak up because we're afraid that we'll be silenced. At this stage, with what is happening now, it means that we cannot be quiet any longer. And our platform is an opportunity for us to keep talking and make our voice heard. The truth of the matter is, the trend in the news has always been from those out on top. But now we're changing the narrative by bringing out our stories. And that's why you're hearing more of Nigeria's stories.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that is one reason why we participated as volunteers in Chicoco, because we want our voice to be heard. They always talk news, or they always read news about us. But you know, when you're here and someone talks about you and you hear about it, and is this really true? Because I know this thing did not happen. So they always want to read the news in a way, or tell our stories in a way to favor the government and not us. Even when they come to Bulldozer, they will always say, I gave them 6 months notice. I gave them 1 year notice, which they know it's just the lie. And Chicoco came to be a platform for us to let them know that our voice needs to be heard. This is our story. We have the right to tell our story. People need to listen to our story the way it happened and have the first-hand information, not the other way around.
That telling of a story is rooted in everyday experience and in data. So there's also a Chicoco Maps team that carry out household surveys. We've got the deepest data sets of any part of the city, let alone an informal part of the city. Because without that data, you can't make meaningful development plans. And so giving people the power to put themselves on the map, as well as to give voice to their vision of a city that recognizes them and to put themselves in the picture, is really what we're trying to do.
This is really inspiring, and I think that's also something that is important for me and Leilani, that inspiration is floating out, because the stories we are talking about a lot here is like very harsh stories of evictions, of the big hedge funds buying up our cities. It's like it's so brutal and it's so rapid, and it's like, so it's affecting people in your town, but also in my town in Sweden, and also in your town in Canada. The pushback that you are a part of is also, we need to inspire each other. And the inspiration from Chicoco is, I think something that should be really traveling out to the world, and much beyond Africa, because it's very cool what you're doing. We will tell everybody to go and check out your website and to follow your work, because it's really inspirational.
So Chicoco is like that bridge between the slum dwellers and the government, because most of them don't know what happens here. So Chicoco brought the platform whereby people can relay their story. Like Michael rightly said, I am a mapper, and because I have been faced with forceful eviction, getting this tool, we survey this place. Most of this waterfront prior to this time were not included in the map of Rivers State. So they will assume people do not live there. So when we go to those places and map them, get surveys from those places and map them, and we give those people, we have what we have, we call the encounter and exchange, like a stakeholders meeting between the Chicoco and the community, that's the slum dwellers. We give them this to the findings that we get from their environment that they can now use as a tool, as a source of information to get things from the government, because most of those places lack basic infrastructures like water, like hospitals, like schools. When they get this information, they use it to fight for their right, of which the government have denied them for years. And from a recent survey that we did, we found out that we have civil servants, which are supposed to be government workers, living in these supposed slums because the money they get can't even afford a good housing for them. For instance, just recently, the minimum wage of Nigeria, of a Nigerian worker, was raised to 30,000 naira, which amounts to about $47 per month, which is barely enough for anyone to feed. Yet, for people living in those slums, we found out that they spend a whopping sum of 18 million naira annually just to get drinking water, which is supposed to be part of a basic right.
It's expensive to be poor.
Oh, very
Yes.
So it's very expensive to be poor, especially in Rivers State and Nigeria.
We also read in the news about what happens over there. We don't know how terrible the situation is, particularly for, it was Frederick who mentioned the thing about inequality or brutality. So do you have, how terrible is the situation compared to what we have here? Is it?
This is something the pandemic has done, right? Usually it's Africa that is cast as the dark driver of disease and disorder. And more now, we're seeing stories of poverty, hunger, homelessness in the rich parts of the world. And it's really perturbing to people here. It really turns things on their head. So we're just curious to know what you're seeing there on your streets.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, Leilani, we've been talking about the UK in the podcast. We've been talking about Spain. We're talking about the US. In the United States, 40 million Americans are one rent away from eviction. So there's a lot of stress. People are, and it's expensive to be poor also in London or in Malmö, Sweden, and in any other country. So it is a global story.
Yeah. Well, you might like to know, or not like to know. After the podcast, I will sit at my desk and edit an opinion piece I'm co-authoring about a community here in Ottawa, Canada, which is one of the richest cities in Canada. A community of 100 houses is going to be completely demolished to make way for public infrastructure. I'm sure you understand this. It's a new subway line or metro line. There were 6 potential ways the line could run. 4 went around the community and 2 went through, and the city council went with one of the proposals that goes right through the community. It's a low-income community, so people who are working but not making a lot of money, and racialized. So, I mean, it's happening absolutely everywhere, and I mean, actively. It's not a passive thing. It's governments taking these decisions around the world to entrench poverty and make the affluent more affluent. So that's why we keep pushing back. And that's why I draw a huge inspiration from you this morning. Now I'm going to sit down and do a good job on this op-ed.
That's good. Because now Leilani is smiling again.
That's right.
When we started this podcast, she was like
grumbling.
Oh, I'm so tired. I haven't been sleeping. But now there is a beautiful smile on your lips. It's beautiful. It's a pity that our audience can't see her, but you can hear your voice got some little more lift.
And we've got more music for you too.
Yeah. Yes, let's listen to some more music. We need some more music, Michael, coming from Radio Chicoco.
I'm black and I'm confident. I'm black and I'm confident. I'm black and I'm confident.
I can't hear you. Let's go.
What you heard is true. I was raised up in the bush, raised up into life where there's not too many truths. Raised up in a time when the teeth turn to juice, and pain is the water for the youth.
I can't hear you.
What you heard is true. I was raised up in the bush, raised up into lies where there's not too many truths. Raised up in a time when the teeth turn to juice, and pain is the water for the youth. But I'm confident now. I'm confident now. Don't need no compliment. Don't need no compliment. And black and I'm confident now. I'm confident now. Don't need no compliment. Don't need no compliment. Oh na na na.
See, they keep on telling me this, they keep on telling me that. There's something wrong with your track. I'm from a very high space. No, this shit is bringing me down. Yeah, I lose my self-esteem. Oh, wagwan, chalo wagwan, me a African girl. This one a bad one. Wagwan, chalo wagwan, me a rock this jungle just like Tarzan. Wagwan, chalo wagwan, me a African girl. This one a bad one. Jagwan, chalo wagwan, me a rock this jungle just like Tarzan.
What you heard is true. I was raised up in the bush, raised up into lives where there's not too many truths. Raised up in a time when the teeth turn to juice, and pain is the water for the youth. What you heard is true. I was raised up in the bush, raised up into lives where there's not too many truths. Raised up in a time when the teeth turn to juice, and pain is the water for the youth. But I'm confident now. I'm confident now. Don't need no compliment. Don't need no compliment. I'm black and I'm confident now. I'm confident now. Don't need no compliment. Don't need no compliment. Oh na na na.
Thank God for the likes of Martin Luther King, the veterans who helped me struggle in the Simone, strange fruits. I no longer hang in Malcolm X. You black and you confident. Who could have thought you would have the black president? I mean, Barack Obama wall up the Mandela. To 7 years in prison, went on the long walk to freedom. For the joints, Eliza McCoy, Philip McQuarrie, Sarah Boone, Mary Brown, all black inventors. I'm black and I'm confident and I'm proud of my skin. The fact that I'm black doesn't make me less of a man. We are born to do great things. I can feel it in my genomes, my cartilage and my arteries. God be black if you were man.
I'll tell you, God for black if you was man. God for black if you was man. God for black if you was man.
Yeah. I say the scars on my skin, that's the sign of my struggle. I've been to too many troubles, I've been to too many hurdles. Try to face my whole life is like facing the horror. You know I'm facing the terror, you know I'm facing my problems. So I ain't changing for nothing, I ain't changing my stripe. All the things that I've been through that kept me alive. All the time I had to strive for that which was mine. My light I no go give another man to take shine. So on my way up, step up to the dance floor. On my way up, step up, I ain't going slow. On my way up, I know the city goes slow. See the scars on my skin. Yeah, on my way up, step up to the dance floor. On my way up, step up, I ain't going slow. On my way up, I know the city goes slow. See the scars on my skin. Yeah.
What you heard is true. I was raised up in the bush, raised up into lives where there's not too many truths. Raised up in a time when the teeth turn to juice, and pain is the water for the youth. What you heard is true. I was raised up in the bush, raised up into lives where there's not too many truths. Raised up in a time when the teeth turn to juice, and pain is the water for the youth. But I'm confident now. I'm confident now. Don't need no compliment. I don't need no compliment. I'm black and I'm confident now. I'm confident now. Don't need no compliment. Don't need no compliment. Oh na 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 na. Oh na 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 na. Oh na 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 na. Yeah. Oh na na na.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you for taking part of Pushback Talks. And I really hope to come and visit you soon. I really want to go and see you all.
Our doors are wide open. Open.
So Leilani, it's so good to see your smile back. You know, I know you're working really hard these days.
I'm working really hard, but I feel right in this moment like the luckiest podcaster in the world. I have a great co-host. We have an amazing production team. Thank you, Mikey. And we were joined by Chicoco FM. I mean, totally cool. Doesn't get better than this, does it?
And now we have a challenge. We have to keep podcasting.
I guess so. But we need resources.
We need resources. Yeah. So if you like the podcast, you can be a Patreon. You go to patreon.com and you actually say, yes, I want to support this podcast with like a monthly $5, $2, $10. You decide. And spread the words. Where right now we have 19 friends out there, and you 19, if you listen, we love you, because it's not a joke. It's actually for real that in some ways we're doing this with a bleeding knees, and we can't keep doing it forever if we don't get some kind of funding. So please help us. And meanwhile, also send us ideas on where to go, who to speak to, and so on. Help us open doors. So thank you, and thank you, Leilani, again. I hope you have a good day.
Thanks, Fredrik.
I can soon bike out in
the darkness.
Gray. Yeah, I mean, it's still some daylight out here, but up here in Sweden, November, the darkness comes around 4:00.
Here
and
too
some
in
days,
Canada.
There's a feeling that the day doesn't even start. So get me on a plane to Port Harcourt, please. So anyway, thank you for now, and talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Stay confident.
Pushback Talks is produced by WG Film. To support the podcast, become a patron by going to patreon.com/pushbacktalks. Follow us on social media at make_the_shift and at push_the_film. Or check out our websites, maketheshift.org, pushthefilm.com, or breakingsocialfilm.com.